Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're pulling back the curtain on the most infamous cheaters in sports history. And we're starting with the worst athletes to ever cheat for a taste of victory.
No questions about anything that's going on.
Under orders from her lawyers, Harding refuses to talk about allegations made by her bodyguard that she helped plan the attack against Kerrigan.
Welcome to Watch Mojo. And today we're counting down our picks for the most notorious cheating scandals in sports history.
I kind of know that people do steroids.
Well, you look at these people and you say, well, why do they look that way?
Number 20, Mike Tyson.
Was that just kind of a place where you just went and you kind of hit a wall? Or would you, if you had a chance to do it over again, would you do it over again?
No, yeah, probably do the same thing because he was really kicking my ass.
It was June 28th, 1997. And heavyweight champion Evander Holyfield was getting in the ring with the number one contender, Mike Tyson. The fight was highly anticipated and served as a rematch of an earlier bout, which Holyfield won via TKO in the 11th. The second fight was largely dominated by Holyfield, who was controlling Tyson with sharp punches and smart movement. Tyson grew increasingly frustrated until he bit a chunk out of Holyfield's ear. But here's where it gets even crazier. After the officials gave Tyson a stern warning, he did it again. Referee Mills Lane finally stopped the madness and disqualified Tyson, putting an end to what many consider the most bizarre fight in boxing history.
And you know what? You put your head like this, I did my head like this. So it's like you can see that I'm putting my ear, it's like I'm setting myself up.
Number 19, Thierry Henry.
A total confusion in the Irish defence. The protest won't count. The referee's made his decision.
The stakes are high. France and Ireland are battling it out in a World Cup qualification playoff, and the winner gets a ticket to the big tournament in South Africa. The match has gone into extra time, and the teams deadlocked 1-1 on aggregate. That's when France's Thierry Henry controls the ball not once, but twice, with his hand before passing to William Gallas, who scores and wins the game for France. They go to the World Cup and Ireland is sent packing. Henry later admitted to handling the ball and even stated that the fairest solution would be to replay the game. But this came after FIFA had already ruled out a rematch. The damage was done and Henry's reputation was in tatters.
That's a handball, no question about it. Absolutely no question about it, and France have stolen the lead on aggregate.
Number 18, Marion Jones.
And people want to know, do you feel you could have achieved that without the drugs?
1,000%, and that's what makes it very hard.
A celebrated track and field athlete, Marion Jones was a superstar of the 2000 Sydney Olympics, winning a total of 5 medals, 3 of them gold. Enter the Balco scandal, which saw the feds investigating the Bay Area Laboratory Cooperative for providing steroids to athletes. The founder of Balco tells ABC that he had personally provided Jones with steroids, and others testify that she had been taking them, including reporters and even Jones's ex-husband. After years of denial, Jones finally admits that, yep, she'd been using performance-enhancing drugs all along, including during those triumphant Sydney Olympics. The IOC strips her of her medals, she's banned from the sport, and she even goes in the can for 6 months for lying to federal investigators.
You've gone from $80,000 a race.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is per inch, but it's a lot, right? And then suddenly you're in this tiny cell. You're a felon.
Well.
Number 17, Felipe Almonte.
More history. Danny Almonte. For the first time in 54 years, we have a Little League World Series perfect game. How about it?
It was the 2001 Little League World Series, and there's a new phenomenon named Danny Almonte on the mound. He is absolute fire, throwing 70 miles an hour, striking out 86% of the batters he faced, and even throwing a perfect game. Reporters called him a baseball sensation, while others raised their eyebrows. A team from Staten Island hired a private investigator to look into Almonte, and officials started digging into his past. They found out that he was actually 14 years old, not 12, and therefore too old for the league. Danny was cleared of wrongdoing as he was reportedly unaware of the deception. Blame instead went to his father, Felipe. He was banned from the Little League and charged with falsifying a birth certificate.
This guy's 50. He's got a mustache. Not according to birth certificate.
Number 16. The CCNY point shaving scandal. College basketball was nearly ruined forever in 1951, thanks to the infamous CCNY scandal. Some background. Point shaving is when players collude with gamblers to fix the score of a game, often for the price of a bribe. And while this scandal is named for the City College of New York, it actually involved 7 American schools. The scandal blew up in 1951 when a police investigation busted the scheme and accused dozens of players of point shaving. Many of the accused received lifetime bans from the sport of basketball, and some even went to prison. It also charged the entire landscape of college basketball, resulting in stricter rules, more oversight, and a big push to keep corruption out of the game. Number 15. Antonio Margarito.
Margarito has not thrown since Shane landed that combination. Mosley has Margarito in trouble on the rope.
This tough-as-nails Mexican boxer was known for his relentless pressure and brutal punching power that may have come from somewhere else. Margarito was poised to fight Shane Mosley for the WBA welterweight title, but Mosley's trainer noticed that Margarito had some kind of mystery substance in his hand wraps. Upon further study, it was found to be calcium sulfate, which forms a hard plaster-like material when combined with moisture. Yep, he was essentially boxing with casts on his hands. Margarito's hands were rewrapped, and he subsequently lost the fight. And later investigations unearthed similar clues in earlier matches, leading some to conclude that he had been cheating all along.
There's another one. There's a big left hook. Why not stop it now? And there's the white towel from the corner, and Shane Mosley has annihilated Antonio Margarito.
Number 14. East Germany at the 1976 Summer Olympics.
Elizabeth Vargas brings us this heartbreaking story. How could it happen? How could we not have known?
The Montreal Olympics were dominated by East Germany, a fact that surprised everyone and gave rise to more than a few vocal critics. The small country finished second in the medal tally and utterly dominated in women's swimming, winning all but 2 events. Observers at the time were deeply suspicious of this performance, and their suspicions were validated when the truth eventually came out. You see, in the years leading up to the Olympics, East Germany implemented a government-run program aimed at enhancing the performance of its athletes with steroids and other PEDs. They pumped their athletes with drugs and then dumped the surplus needles into the St. Lawrence River. How symbolic is that?
I was really shocked. I was shocked how detailed, how organized the whole system was working. It was unbelievable.
Number 13. Ben Johnson.
The urine sample of Ben Johnson was found to contain the metabolites of a banned substance, namely stanozolol.
It's always a shame when huge accomplishments are overshadowed by controversy. During the 1988 Summer Olympics, Canadian sprinter Ben Johnson won the 100-meter and beat his own world record with an astounding finish of 9.79 seconds. It was one of the most thrilling and unforgettable moments in Olympic history. Of course, he was doping the entire time. Yep, just a few days later, his urine tested positive for the banned substance stanozolol, and both his gold medal and world record were stripped. To make matters even worse, Johnson also admitted to using steroids for the first world record run, so that was rescinded as well. His career never recovered, and he was banned for life after testing positive yet again in 1993.
For Canadians, a classic where were you moment. Then the positive drug test, the Dublin inquiry, the admission. Johnson cheated.
Number 12. Rosie Ruiz.
I could take a polygraph test, but I don't think that it would measure anything concrete.
It was the 84th rendition of the popular Boston Marathon. Professional runners were grinding through miles of sweat and determination when this random, unknown woman named Rosie Ruiz wins the race. Not only that, but she sets the record for the fastest time ever for a female runner in the Boston Marathon. And not only that, but she sets the third fastest female time in any marathon, ever. Well, it didn't take long for people to notice that she wasn't sweating. Her legs weren't muscular, and no one could recall seeing her during the race. Turns out she jumped into the course about half a mile from the finish line and fooled everyone into thinking she was a masterful runner. Masterful troll, more like.
A, she didn't look like a runner. B, she was wearing a very heavy top that was not covered in sweat.
Number 11, Tim Donaghy.
You expect us to believe that you did nothing to manipulate the outcome of an NBA game.
Everybody's entitled to their opinion.
This basketball referee worked in the NBA for 13 seasons, officiating well over 700 games. All that down the toilet to make a little bit of money. You see, Donaghy attracted the attention of the FBI, who began looking into his career and personal life. They uncovered a shocking truth. Donaghy was using his inside information and knowledge to bet on games. But gets even worse. Donaghy officiated some of the games that he bet on and made allegedly bogus calls to direct the outcome of the game. He had been doing this for a number of years and eventually pleaded guilty to conspiracy to engage in wire fraud and transmitting wagering information through interstate commerce. He was sentenced to 15 months in federal prison.
In 23 of the 30 games that were competitive, Donaghy's calls favored the team that his partners had wagered on. That's 77%.
Number 10, Bill Belichick.
It was one of the biggest stories in sports. The New England Patriots caught videotaping a rival team's coaches as they sent signals to their players.
Widely considered one of the best coaches in football history, Bill Belichick's career is firmly set in stone, minus one little hiccup: Spygate. During the 2007 season, Belichick and his New England Patriots were caught videotaping the opposing team's defensive signals. According to NFL rules, teams could not use video equipment to capture opposing coaches' signals from their own sidelines. As such, Belichick was personally fined $500,000, which was the largest fine ever levied on a coach, and the Pats were stripped of their 2008 first-round draft pick. The controversy also raised questions about how much the Patriots' dominance during the early 2000s was owed to illegal taping practices.
And then shut it down, reported to the league, and then what it became, which is not anything that I would have wanted.
Number 9, Louis Resto.
I mean, college taking some heavy punishment here. I feel the fight should be stopped.
Sometimes cheating has consequences that extend beyond the sport itself. In 1983, Puerto Rican boxer Louis Resto beat the undefeated Billy Collins Jr. via unanimous decision. Collins took a brutal beating, and by the end of the fight, his face was an unrecognizable mess. After the match, it was discovered that Resto's trainer had removed the padding from his gloves and soaked his hand wraps in plaster. This created vicious and highly illegal punches, and Collins suffered a torn iris. This injury resulted in permanently blurred vision, and he died less than a year later in a car accident. Many suspect that he took his own life. Resto served 2.5 years in prison for assault and criminal possession of a weapon.
And he was crying, and he said, I've been beat up bad. You don't realize how bad I've been beat up. He said, I'm blind, I can't see, and I think I'm going to die.
Number 8, the Houston Astros.
Should the Astros be stripped of their title?
Yes, they should. The title is illegitimate.
The 2017 baseball season belonged to the Houston Astros. They finished first in the AL West with a fantastic record of 101-61, and they beat the Los Angeles Dodgers for the club's first ever World Series title. It was a great underdog story, and it remained as such until 2019 when The Atlantic broke it open. Turns out the Astros had been illegally capturing the signs given by the opposing catchers. The players would watch this live feed and give various audio cues to the batter to signal which pitch was coming, the most famous of which is a banging trash can. The team was ultimately fined the maximum penalty of $5 million, and their manager A.J. Hinch was suspended for 1 year and fired.
Several players were interviewed by the league, but none would reveal the mastermind of this garbage can scheme.
Number 7, Frederick Loors. The men's marathon at the 1904 Summer Olympics is perhaps the funniest comedy of errors in sporting history. Cars kicked dust into the athletes' mouths, runners had to dodge moving trains, one was hallucinating on rat poison, which was given as a stimulant, and another took a nap after wandering off course and eating some rotten apples. And then there's Frederick Loors, who crossed the finish line after 3 hours and 13 minutes. Just as he was being congratulated by Alice Roosevelt, people accused him of cheating. Yep, he hitched a ride to the finish line, even waving to spectators as he passed. He immediately admitted to cheating, and that's the story of the men's marathon at the 1904 Summer Olympics. Number 6. Diego Maradona. Mention the hand of God to any English soccer fan and watch them wince. Diego Maradona was a player for Argentina who was facing England in the quarterfinals of the 1986 World Cup. 6 minutes into the second half, Maradona punched the ball into the net to put his team up 1-0. Despite this being a flagrant foul, the goal was allowed to stand as the officials did not see him handle the ball. Argentina won the game 2-1, and Maradona slyly commented on the controversial goal, saying it was made with the hand of God. He later admitted outright that he had handled the ball and claimed that it was revenge for England's victory over Argentina in the Falklands War. Number 5. The 1919 Chicago White Sox.
I love baseball ever since Arnold Rothstein fixed the World Series in 1919.
Baseball was absolutely enormous in the early 20th century, but its integrity was nearly ruined following the 1919 World Series. The heavily favored White Sox lost to the Cincinnati Reds, leading to rumors that the games had been fixed. Indeed, several players had conspired with gamblers to deliberately lose games in exchange for bribes. Many believe that organized crime was behind the ploy, specifically Jewish mob kingpin Arnold Rothstein. The National Baseball Commission was dissolved in shame, and 8 White Sox players were indicted for conspiracy to defraud. One of them was the famous Shoeless Joe Jackson, who was subsequently banned from baseball and made ineligible for the Hall of Fame.
There are others, you know. There were 8 of us. It really mean a lot to them.
Yeah. Anytime. They're all welcome here.
Number 4. The MLB steroid era.
So what is wrong with Major League Baseball and the Players Association?
They allowed steroids in the game. They endorsed it. They turned their, blind eye to it.
Nestled between the late 1980s and early 2000s is baseball's steroid era. So named because, well, you can probably guess. Many stars of this time have admitted to doping, including Ken Caminiti, Alex Rodriguez, and Jose Canseco. In fact, the latter wrote a book titled Juiced, in which he claims that up to 80% of all Major League Baseball players are on steroids. Perhaps the biggest symbol of this era is the 1998 home run record chase, in which Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa battled to beat the record of 61 home runs in a season. McGwire ultimately won and shattered the record with 70 home runs. Guess what? Yep, juiced to the gills.
They all did it, right? Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, they were all on the sauce.
You could kind of look at the ones that did a certain way because they were square.
Number 3, the Spanish Paralympians.
Me dijo que la selección española de baloncesto de discapacitados estaba jugando los campeonatos con jugadores que no tenían ningún tipo de discapacidad.
The 2000 Sydney Olympics were marred by controversy, and that reputation extended to the Paralympics. One of the sports was basketball ID, an event for intellectually disabled athletes with an IQ less than 75. Spain destroyed the competition, being the only undefeated team and beating Russia in the finals by over 20 points. The truth was unveiled when an undercover reporter playing with the team revealed that most of the athletes were not actually disabled. It was later confirmed that 10 of the 12 competitors were not disabled, that the Spanish Paralympic Committee did not perform the necessary IQ tests, and that non-disabled athletes were intentionally signed up with the intention of winning medals and gaining sponsorships. Well, that backfired.
Tenían un contable, tenían un ingeniero. Ellos pensaban que incluso un periodista podía estar en el equipo sin ningún tipo de problemas.
Number 2, Tonya Harding.
Well, maybe we should take somebody out so we can make sure she gets on the team. I go, what the hell are you talking about?
American figure skater Tonya Harding was poised to compete at both the U.S. Figure Skating Championships and the Winter Olympics, a dream harbored by many budding athletes around the country. Unfortunately, she threw it all away. On January 6, 1994, Harding's rival Nancy Kerrigan was assaulted by a man who struck her on the knee with a baton. This man was Shane Stant, who had been hired by Harding's husband, Jeff Gillooly. The hope was that the injury would sideline Kerrigan, thereby improving Harding's chances in the competition. Harding publicly denied knowledge of the attack, but she later admitted to covering it up, and Gillooly insists that she was directly involved in its planning.
I have had my hopes up for, the longest time now, competing against Nancy and proving to everybody that I am as good as her and better.
Number 1, Lance Armstrong.
If you take me back to 1995, when it was completely and totally pervasive, I'd probably do it again.
Ask any person on the street to name a famous cheater, and chances are they'll say Lance Armstrong, who was once the poster boy for cycling, is now the poster boy for doping, having been busted in 2012 and stripped of his 7 Tour de France titles. Rumors of Armstrong's cheating date all the way back to the late 90s, but he repeatedly denied the accusations. Regardless, the U.S. anti-doping agency uncovered evidence of a sophisticated drug program run by Armstrong and accused him of taking multiple PEDs throughout the course of his career. He was banned from cycling and ordered to pay $5 million in restitution, and that's not counting the personal cost of his tarnished reputation.
We get it. It was a bad decision in an imperfect time, but it happened.
Can you think of any more famous cheaters? Let us know in the comments below.
I made a mistake. I was wrong. I was wrong.
We're going to continue this special eye-opening look at cheaters with the biggest fraudsters in the world of soccer.
It can't be proved, but Chiellini's trying to make it obvious to everybody.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 cheating scandals in soccer.
This game is absolutely amazing. Pepe's been sent off. He's not happy with that.
For this list, we're looking at some of the biggest instances of cheating and foul play in the beautiful game. We'll also explore some of the biggest scandals that involved winning. Who's your favorite player that bends the rules the most? Number 10. Acting on the world stage. Hoping to get off to a good start at the 2002 World Cup, Brazil faced Turkey in the first game of Group C, with the South Americans leading 2-1, and as the seconds ticked down to full time, Brazil had a corner. As Turkey's Hakan Ünsal kicked the ball towards Rivaldo, it seemingly hit the Brazilian in the face, and he went down. Ünsal was sent off. However, replays showed the ball had hit the then Barcelona forward on the leg, not the face he dramatically grasped. For his unsportsmanlike play acting, Rivaldo was fined by FIFA. Even though Brazil ended up winning the competition, this infamous moment tainted that accolade. Number 9. Pepe's Fury. Pepe is a nightmare for opposition attackers. He uses his aggression to intimidate players into making mistakes. However, the Portuguese defender often took it way too far. In 2009, while playing for Real Madrid, Pepe snapped against Getafe CF in Spain's La Liga.
This is Casquero on the chance to score. He's brought down by Pepe, and a penalty is going to be given.
With Javier Casquero bearing down on goal, he fell under pressure from Pepe. The defender proceeded to kick Casquero multiple times and stamped on him in a horrific attack. This sparked a bit of a melee between the two sides. Afterward, Pepe was banned for a massive 10 games. In another instance, at the 2018 World Cup, Portugal faced Morocco in their group match. As Mehdi Benatia tapped Pepe on the back, he went down as though he was hit by a cannonball. Yikes. Number 8. Teething problems. As good as Luis Suarez has been on the pitch, he has one glaring problem that stands out from the rest: biting. In 2010, when playing for Ajax, he took a chomp out of PSV Eindhoven's Otman Bakal, which resulted in a fine and suspension. Then, in 2013, while playing for Liverpool, Suarez got into a tussle with Chelsea's Branislav Ivanovic, where the Uruguayan let his inner vampire out.
And Suarez does. He does exactly that. That is quite incredible and pretty disgusting.
Suarez was banned for 10 games, but at the World Cup in 2014, he learned nothing from his other incidents, as Suarez bit Italy's Giorgio Chiellini.
It looks to me, dare I say it, that he's had a little bite at Chiellini. Surely not again.
He received the biggest World Cup ban of 9 games, forbidden from all soccer-related activity for 4 months, and a fine.
The player Luis Suarez is banned from taking part in any kind of football-related activity, administrative, sport, or any other, for a period of 4 months in accordance with Article 22 of the FIFA Disciplinary Code.
Number 7. Amateur acupuncture. Carlos Bilardo has worn a lot of hats. He was a midfield general in Argentina, a physician, and a World Cup winning manager with his country. But he's best known for bending the rules whenever possible. When playing for clubs like San Lorenzo and Estudiantes, Bilardo hid needles in his socks. During games, he would subtly stab opponents, forcing them to make mistakes. In 2017, Federico Allende, an Argentine player, took inspiration from Bilardo by poking the opposition with sharp objects. When he became a manager, Bilardo continued his dastardly ways. He reportedly told his players to put heat rub in the opposition's eyes and admitted having knowledge that a water bottle given to the team Brazil had been spiked in 1990 during a World Cup match. Number 6. Rotten Rojas. In 1989, the event known as El Maracanãs took place. During a qualifying match for the 1990 World Cup, Brazil took on Chile. The latter needed to win to go through. But with Chile losing 1-0, their goalkeeper, Roberto Rojas, went down.
There's an incident there. Something has been thrown. Goalkeeper.
Seemingly, he had been hit by a flare thrown from the crowd. As a result, his teammates refused to continue.
The game is over. It's been abandoned by the referee. Just what the outcome will be, I have no idea. But Chile have clearly refused to come back. And they left the field after their goalkeeper, they claim, was hit by a missile.
However, unfortunately for Rojas, the TV cameras picked up on what actually happened. He wasn't hit at all. It turned out Rojas had used a razor blade to give himself injuries. This was planned by manager Orlando Aravena and the team doctor. Rojas was banned from football for life, and Chile was banned from participating in the 1994 World Cup. The ban against Rojas was later lifted. Number 5. The Good Friday match-fixing scandal. Manchester United and Liverpool have one of the most passionate rivalries around, so you might be surprised to hear that the duo worked together back in 1915 to fix a match. In the then First Division, United was battling relegation as Liverpool was safe. With World War I about to suspend the division, players on both sides placed bets on the game. In the end, United won 2-0. But suspicions were aroused when Liverpool looked bored, missed a penalty, then had a go at their teammate, who almost scored. After an investigation, the FA banned 3 United and 4 Liverpool players for life. However, the bans for 6 players were eventually lifted, while center forward Enoch West had to wait until 1945. Number 4. The Whistle Mafia. Referees are usually seen as a pillar of the sport's law, not the ones breaking them. But in Brazil in 2005, Edilson Pereira de Carvalho and Paulo José Danilun were taking payments to fix the outcome of matches by a gambling ring. The results of several Brazilian national championship and second division games were annulled, and the reffing duo was banned from officiating for life. Another scandal involving referees happened the same year in Germany. Robert Heutzer, the main culprit, confessed to fixing and betting on the outcome of matches in cup competitions and lower down leagues. He was banned for life and received a prison sentence. Number 3. Tapigate. In 1993, France's Marseille was at the top of their game. They won the Ligue 1 and became the first French side to win the Champions League. But that soon fell apart. It came out that their president Bernard Tapie and general manager Jean-Pierre Bernez had asked several Valenciennes players to forfeit their match with Marseille.
A matter that would ultimately land Tapie a 2-year prison sentence.
One of the players, Jacques Glassman, told the authorities about the bribe. As a result, Glassman got the FIFA Fair Play Award in 1995. Marseille was stripped of being league champions and relegated to the division below. Tapie, Bernays, and several others that were involved in the conspiracy were banned for life and sentenced to prison. Number 2, the Hand of God. As one of the greatest players to step onto a pitch, Diego Maradona had all the talent to take apart England single-handedly at the 1986 World Cup quarterfinal. And he did, at least with his second goal.
And he's hurting England again here. It's a brilliant run. It's one of the World Cup great goals.
But the first one is what puts a mark on his legacy. With the ball floating towards the England goal, keeper Peter Shilton ran to get it. However, he was beaten to it by the 8-inch smaller Maradona, and the ball fell into the English goal. England immediately began protesting.
The English players screamed for handball. Everyone had seen the infringement, except Tunisian referee Barakoua.
Something was off. Replays showed the Argentine had knocked the ball into the back of the net with his hand, and the ref didn't see it. Argentina went on to win 2-1 and ended up winning the tournament. Before we unveil our number 1 pick, here are some honorable, or in this case dishonorable mentions. Le Hand of God. In a World Cup qualifier against the Republic of Ireland in 2009, Thierry Henry controlled the ball with his hand as he set up the winning goal.
Oh, Henry! Oh, it's in the net! It's a goal!
Sneaky peek. Barcelona's Sergio Busquets pretended to be hit by Inter Milan's Thiago Motta in a 2010 Champions League bout. On a roll. After his diving and play-acting shenanigans at the 2018 World Cup, Neymar became a rolling meme. Number 1. Calciopoli. European football was rocked when the scandal came out in 2006. Hires up of several Italian football clubs and referee groups had been influencing the choosing of favorable officials for certain matches. Even Serie A champions Juventus were found to be involved. They were stripped of the 05 and 06 titles, the latter of which was given to Inter Milan. But even more dramatically, Juventus were relegated to Serie B for the following season. Other clubs involved in the Calciopoli, like AC Milan, Lazio, Regina, and Fiorentina, received various punishments, mostly point deductions and expulsions from competitions. As for the individuals, many of them were handed bans from football and even received prison sentences.
If you thought those soccer players were bad, well, check out these upcoming fighters who exemplify the term fighting dirty.
Whoa, look at before and after. That's crazy.
Jesus Christ.
2009 to 2016. Whoa, that's amazing.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 20 times fighters got caught cheating.
You know, I'm human and I make mistakes, and it definitely was a mistake. If I would have known that this supplement that I was taking for something else would have had this sort of a problem, I would have never taken it in the beginning.
For this list, we'll be looking at instances when boxers and MMA fighters were caught red-handed cheating. Which fighter do you think went too far? Number 20, Alistair Overeem. Judging by the physique he's maintained throughout his career, one can rightfully wonder whether Alistair Overeem has taken performance-enhancing drugs or not.
It is a genetic thing. You know, my body just doesn't hold any fat. My fat percentage is really low. That's why my muscles jump out.
Those questions have merit. Prior to a heavyweight title bout against then-champion Junior Dos Santos, in 2012, the Reem failed a random drug test, despite previously claiming that he was drug-free and would pass his tests. He was suspended 9 months, and his bout with Dos Santos was scrapped.
There's obviously an issue, you know, and the number of 14-to-1 that's been reported online of testosterone to epitestosterone is obviously there's something going on.
More recently, a unanimous decision win against Badr Hari in 2022 at a Glory kickboxing event was changed to a no contest after he tested positive for a banned substance in a B sample. He has since been suspended for 1 year by Glory. Number 19, Hector Lombard. Known for his knockout power, this MMA fighter found himself in hot water after defeating Josh Berkman at UFC 182. Originally awarded a unanimous decision victory for Lombard, it was soon overturned after it was announced he tested positive for an anabolic steroid in a test he took after the fight. Subsequently, the fight's outcome was ruled a no contest. He was handed a 1-year suspension, and his bout scheduled against Rory McDonald at UFC 186 was scrapped. Although he stated he didn't knowingly put the substance in his body, surprisingly, unlike other fighters on this list, Lombard did not appeal and ultimately accepted his punishment.
I'm very disappointed about my stupidity, you know what I mean?
Number 18, Canelo Alvarez. Set to take on Gennady Golovkin in a rematch, the whole bout had to be scrapped after Saul Canelo Alvarez failed 2 drug tests. He had tested positive for clenbuterol, a performance-enhancing drug, twice back in February 2018. Claiming innocence, he placed the blame on meat he ate which he believed was contaminated, but it was to no avail as he still received a 6-month suspension.
That is a real fact, though, is that one particular substance he tested positive for exists in meat.
Even after Alvarez and his team submitted DNA evidence, the suspension remained intact. Although he is considered one of boxing's biggest stars, and while it is never frequently mentioned, the incident is not a good look for his legacy. Number 17, Jarrell Miller. Despite being undefeated in 26 fights, Jarrell Miller had shown a frequent inability to submit clean drug tests prior to fights. His most notable infraction took place prior to his bout against Anthony Joshua in 2019. Miller had failed 3 different drug tests and was replaced by Andy Ruiz Jr. Miller was also at one point supposed to fight Jerry Forrest, but Miller would yet again test positive for a banned substance and the bout was ultimately scrapped. Despite these mishaps, Miller has reiterated he has never knowingly taken performance-enhancing drugs.
Ain't nobody gonna be more outraged than me.
Number 16, Sean Shirk.
The winner of the interim championship will fight Sean Shirk for the steroid championship in March or April or whenever it may be.
In 2006, Sean the Muscle Shark Shirk made a splash after moving to the lightweight division, capturing UFC gold at UFC 64 against Kenny Florian. However, his reign atop the division would be brief. Despite winning his first title defense at UFC 73 against Hermes Franca, Shirk would test positive for an anabolic steroid, nandrolone, and was found to have unusually elevated levels of testosterone. Although an appeal by Shirk reduced his initial suspension from 12 to 6 months, he was stripped of his title.
And I think the title was taken from me wrongfully.
Even though Shirk would eventually return to competition and get an immediate title shot against new champion BJ Penn at UFC 84, Shirk would go on to lose the bout by way of TKO. Number 15, Thiago Silva. Like many MMA fighters on this list, this light heavyweight got his career off to an electrifying start, winning his first 13 fights. Unfortunately, Silva's troubles began after UFC 125. His unanimous decision win over Brandon Vera was overturned after it was discovered Silva provided a false urine sample. Silva admitted his wrongdoing and the fight was changed to a no contest. His next fight, scheduled at UFC 130 against Quinton Rampage Jackson, was scrapped. He was suspended for a year and he forfeited a part of the earnings from his win. Even upon returning, Silva would go on to fail yet another drug test at another UFC event and was handed a 6-month suspension. Ultimately, his run in the UFC would come to an end after disturbing video footage of him was released in 2014.
No one wanted to touch him. He was considered a virus. No, we don't want to be near him. We don't know if it's true or not true, but we don't want to take a chance.
Number 14, Dillian White. This boxer has failed a number of drug tests over his career. The first in 2012 saw him spend over 2 years on the sidelines. The second in 2019 came back as inconclusive and White was able to return to the ring in a matter of months. Recently, as he was set to face Anthony Joshua on August 12th, irregularities were found in a pre-fight drug screening. The bout was scratched, and as of the time of writing, White is seeking to prove his innocence and clear his name. Number 3, Vanderlei Silva. Known for his exciting fighting style and hard-hitting knockout power, Brazil's Vanderlei the Axe Murderer Silva would soon develop a much less admirable reputation in 2014. Prior to his scheduled fight at UFC 174, a representative from the Nevada State Athletic Commission appeared at Silva's gym in Las Vegas to conduct a random drug test. Upon realizing who the person was, Silva asked the rep if he could speak to his manager. Only he didn't go speak to his manager. He actually fled the scene.
I came to the conclusion that he left.
It was later revealed during Silva's hearing that he left because he didn't want the person to find out he was taking diuretics, a banned substance which is frequently used as a means to conceal the presence of performance-enhancing drugs in one's system. Not only was his scheduled bout canceled, but he was also fined $70,000 and banned from competing for 3 years. Number 12, Abner Mares. On August 13, 2011, a very controversial boxing match took place between Abner Mares and Joseph Ekbeko. Despite winning the bout, his performance raised many eyebrows due to the number of low blows Mares hit Ekbeko with. It's estimated he hit him with between 15 to 20 low blows.
Oh, another low blow. That left hook continues to fall well below the belt line for Abner Mares.
Many were surprised at how referee Russell Mora did not penalize Mares for his conduct. Despite a number of warnings, the referee did not deduct a single point for Mares.
Russell Mora, the referee, in this fight refused to deduct a point based on countless low blows thrown.
Upon reviewing the fight, several promoters and the Nevada State Athletic Commission called for an immediate rematch, which Mares went on to win. Number 11, John Jones. At one point, he was the UFC's biggest superstar. Then it all went downhill. During his reign as the light heavyweight champion, Jones was a controversial figure as a result of his conduct outside of the octagon. And the following incident is just one part of that. After his rematch with rival Daniel Cormier at UFC 214, which saw him reclaim the light heavyweight title, it was discovered that he had tested positive for the steroid turinabol. The match result was changed to a no contest, and he was subsequently handed a 15-month suspension by USADA. This, along with having to withdraw from UFC 200 previously as a result of a failed drug test, tarnished Jones's reputation.
I'm really sorry about this happening.
The fight result was changed to a no contest, and he was subsequently handed a 15-month suspension by USADA. Although a minor change in USADA's rules would have cleared Jones today, it certainly leaves a large blemish on his otherwise outstanding career.
I'm not concerned about this. I'm not concerned about this affecting my legacy at all.
Number 10, George St. Pierre. Alright, so to be clear, this wasn't George St. Pierre's fault, but this is more so on his corner man, Phil Nurse. In between rounds during his title fight against BJ Penn at UFC 94, Nurse could be seen applying Vaseline on GSP's face and then his back, the latter of which is not permitted.
What were they rubbing on you? What was going on?
I didn't know what happened because I wasn't in the fight, so when you're in a fight, you don't realize what happened.
Watching the fight, one could think that Penn clearly was experiencing some difficulty getting any hold or control over St. Pierre from the bottom. After losing the fight, Penn and his team requested that the Nevada State Athletic Commission conduct an investigation on the matter.
Because we had the pre-bout warning and the commission members did catch him greasing, I wish that they did actually walk across and tell me like, hey man, you better stay off your back, man, this guy's greased, you know, your arm bars and your triangles, they're gonna be worthless.
Dubbed Greasegate, an investigation and hearing took place, but nothing came from either, as the commission came to the conclusion that the application of Vaseline didn't impact the outcome of the fight.
In BJ Penn entry to the octagon, when he's walking to the octagon, you can see how I cheat. I hire a man to kiss BJ Penn on the mouth on his way to the octagon. And at that precise moment, BJ Penn lost all his strength and all his focus, and the fight was mine. So if I cheat, yes, but not with the Vaseline.
Number 9, Shane Mosley.
Both of these fighters will come out of this fight elevated, no question. Big right hand by Mosley.
Back in 2007, a report from Sports Illustrated included several unnamed sources going on record saying that boxer Shane Mosley used performance-enhancing drugs leading up to his fight against Oscar De La Hoya, which he won. In response, Mosley went on to admit that he indeed took steroids, but did so unknowingly, even though there's footage of him stating otherwise.
Did you know you were taking EPO, yes or no? Yes.
Mosley's take is that he was told by his trainer, Daryl Hudson, to take supplements from Victor Conti, founder and head of Bay Area Laboratory Cooperative. Hudson urged Mosley to take these supplements, which were steroids, which used under the pseudonyms The Cream and The Clear. Conti and several others, however, claim that Mosley knew that he was taking steroids.
I came around the desk and he stepped back over here and we sat knee to knee, and I basically showed him specifically how to inject EPO.
Mosley launched a defamation suit against Conti and his company, which was dismissed. Number 8, Anderson Silva.
See you in London, my friend. Yeah, see you. Good luck, buddy. Good luck. Say hi for your family. Right? No Viagra. No, just my punch in your face. Hey, don't relax.
Anderson Silva is considered one of the greatest to ever step into the octagon, but his legacy will forever be tainted because of this incident. After his unanimous decision victory over Nick Diaz in 2015, it was revealed that Silva had tested positive for anabolic steroids during a random out-of-competition test, which took place prior to the bout with Diaz, and then tested positive yet again during another test for an illegal substance.
You're sticking to your word that you're clean, you never use performance-enhancing drugs?
No, nothing. Never in my life.
Never in your life?
First of all, because...
How did you fail again?
Silva denied having taken any performance-enhancing drugs. His defense? That the samples for his test were tainted after using Viagra.
What was in the supplement was a sexual enhancement supplement, and the reason I didn't go to the doctors is because this particular supplement they don't have here in the U.S. or in Brazil. My friend brought it from Thailand, and that's why I was taking that.
The Nevada State Athletic Commission didn't buy it, and he was suspended a year, fined $380,000, and his win against Diaz was changed to a no contest. Number 7, Brock Lesnar.
You're just so big, and you come out of the world of pro wrestling.
We're done. Thanks, guys.
This pro wrestler turned MMA fighter certainly left his mark in the UFC, but his last fight will not be so fondly remembered. After taking an almost 5-year hiatus from the sport, Lesnar would make his anticipated return to the octagon at UFC 200 against Mark Hunt. Lesnar dominated the majority of the fight en route to a unanimous decision victory. However, it was revealed that Lesnar had failed 2 pre-fight drug tests and tested positive for clomiphene, an anti-estrogen agent that can raise testosterone levels and counter effects of steroid use. Prohibited by the UFC's anti-doping policy, Lesnar was suspended a year and was slapped a fine of $250,000, which he reportedly has yet to pay. Number 6. Jake LaMotta. LaMotta was a fan favorite in boxing and is often best known for having been portrayed by actor Robert De Niro in the Martin Scorsese classic Raging Bull.
What do you think you're doing out there? Huh? What are you doing out there?
What some people might not know about LaMotta, however, was that he once threw away a match.
He could beat all the Sugar Ray Robinsons and the Tony Genneros in the world, but he ain't gonna get a shot at that title, not without us, he ain't.
Prior to facing Billy Fox in 1947, he cut a deal with the Mafia where, in exchange for purposefully losing the fight, they would set him up for a title shot.
They came to my brother with a proposition that if I lost the fight, I would be guaranteed a shot for the title. And I agreed.
LaMotta did as he was told and took a dive in the 4th round. After an investigation into his victory, and when LaMotta would later admit wrongdoing, he was suspended indefinitely by the New York State Athletic Commission, and he only wound up getting his title shot 10 fights later.
The end comes dramatically in the 10th round when Serdan cannot answer the bell. His left arm, injured in a fall in the 1st round, proves Serdan's undoing, and Jake LaMotta is the new middleweight champion.
Number 5. Mike Kyle. Having earned himself a reputation as one of the dirtiest fighters of all time, Mike Kyle isn't doing himself any favors.
I apologize for my mistakes if I've ever, for the people I hurt. But like I said, I wouldn't take it back because all it's done is made me more mature. And, all the adversity is for a reason.
He's done everything you shouldn't do. But one moment is most often notoriously remembered. At WEC 20 back in 2006, Kyle threw an illegal soccer kick against his opponent Brian Olsen. Olsen was knocked out, and to make matters even worse, he wouldn't stop punching Olsen even though he was unconscious to the point where not one, but 2 refs had to pull him off. He was immediately disqualified and suspended indefinitely. Number 4. Antonio Margarito. After his boxing match against the aforementioned Shane Mosley, Antonio Margarito was getting his hands wrapped. Mosley's trainer Nazim Richardson noticed a plaster-like substance being used over the fighter's hands.
There was such a distraction about the tape on the wrist. That could be the fake out. I'll show you this to give you something else. So I checked the pad, and when I checked the pad, it felt hard.
Richardson requested that Margarito's hands be rewrapped, and they were. Although Margarito went on to lose the fight, a hearing was still held to deal with the matter, which took place prior to the fight.
There's a big left hook. Why not stop it now? And there's the white towel from the corner, and Shane Mosley has annihilated Antonio Margarito.
Despite claiming ignorance, both Margarito and the trainer responsible for wrapping the fighter's hands, Javier Capetillo, had their boxing licenses revoked for 1 year for the incident.
Ya cuando pasó eso, entonces ya cuando estaba solo yo pues me hacía miles de preguntas, ¿no? Pero nunca sentí yo mal el vendaje, no sé. ¿Será porque no golpeé?
Number 3, TJ Dillashaw.
Oh yeah, the guy's on everything. Yeah, he's on everything.
TJ? Yeah, I'm on everything. They test me every day, so I'm on everything.
Funny, you're the one that showed everyone how to do it on Team Alpha Male.
Aiming to become the 3rd person to become a champion in 2 weight divisions, UFC bantamweight champion TJ Dillashaw challenged then flyweight champion Henry Cejudo in a super fight back in 2019, which he lost the fight by TKO in just 30 seconds. But the worst was yet to come for Dillashaw. Months later, it was revealed that he tested positive for recombinant human erythropoietin, also known as EPO, a hormone which increases red blood cell production in the body.
You know what I mean? That's what it is. No one cares about why I did it because they're all excuses. Everyone has one and they all stink.
While Dillashaw claimed the purpose for resorting to this tactic came after becoming anemic due to a drastic weight cut to 125 pounds, he was stripped of his title and accepted a 2-year ban from the sport of MMA. His legacy and reign in the bantamweight division forever tarnished.
I pushed my body to the extreme, man. I mean, no excuses. I made the mistake of wanting to do something that hadn't been done, and stole my soul to the devil. And now I gotta build myself back up and deal with it, right?
Number 2, Vitor Belfort.
Man, everybody's doping, man. UFC, even John Jones can fight in a different organization, so they can change a fight. You guys, come on, man.
This knockout artist was caught testing positive for the illegal substance 4-hydroxytestosterone after his fight with Dan Henderson at Pride 32. Claiming he was unaware that the supplement he took contained the substance, he was still handed a 9-month suspension and fined $10,000. Although he's only been caught once, this hasn't stopped pundits from claiming Belfort has been using performance-enhancing drugs throughout his entire career. Since the UFC banned the use of testosterone replacement therapy in 2014, many have pointed to Belfort's change in physique.
And he's a guy who was known to take things. I mean, he took things early in his career. Remember when he fought Randy when he was 19? He was 240 pounds.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
His neck started at the top of his head.
According to a report from Deadspin, a test for his fight against then light heavyweight champion John Jones at UFC 152 revealed he had high elevated levels of testosterone and that the UFC ignored it. The UFC has denied his claim.
Vitor Belfort was on steroids when I fought him. The UFC was very well aware way before the fight. They did nothing to penalize him. They let the fight go on, knowing that I was fighting a guy on steroids, which is a hazard to my life.
Number 1, Louis Resto. On the night of June 16, 1983, boxers Billy Ray Collins and Louis Resto squared off at Madison Square Garden. For 10 rounds, they went back and forth, but Collins looked practically unrecognizable after having taken significant damage.
Resto countering beautifully, Jake.
Yes. There.
When the match concluded, Resto went to shake the hands of Collins' corner. One of the cornermen, who is Collins' father, noticed something odd with Resto's gloves.
Just like the old days. Huh? You can't hold the commissioner. All depends on the
He realized there was a lack of padding, and it was later confirmed by a referee. The New York State Athletic Commission went on to suspend Resto and his trainer Carlos Lewis, and both men even served prison sentences as well.
18 days after what had briefly appeared to be his greatest victory, Louis Resto's boxing career was over. But the consequences of that night in the ring, for Louis and so many others, were just beginning.
Resto would never box again. Sadly, Billy Ray Collins' eye was damaged beyond repair and was told he would never fight again and would suffer from depression before he passed away in a car accident.
As the saying goes, it's only cheating if you get caught. Unfortunately for this next crop of athletes, they did get caught on live television.
It wasn't until DeQuell Jackson intercepted a pass that questions were raised about an unfair advantage.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the infamous Times athletes and coaches who allegedly violated the rules of their sport on television.
That is called out for using an illegal bat.
While there are two sides to every story, there's at least some evidence for each case to suggest that cheating intentionally occurred. Number 20, Taj Gibson. Athletes will use anything to win, but sometimes it can get a bit ridiculous. In 2018, the Minnesota Timberwolves took on the Sacramento Kings. After Taj Gibson scored at one end with a left hook, his shoe came off in the process. Yet before he could put it back on, the Kings began attacking. Rather than sit out and get the footwear on, Gibson got creative. The trainer in hand, he attempted to defend.
Are you allowed to block a shot with a shoe? No.
As the Kings' Nemanja Bjelica went for a shot, Gibson tried using his singular sneaker for extra blocking coverage. While he didn't touch the ball, instead Karl Anthony Towns made the save. Using a foreign object to defend is a no-no. Number 9, Baron Davis. For a bit of fun, the NBA hosts the Slam Dunk Contest over the All-Star Weekend. And in 2001, then Charlotte Hornets player Baron Davis participated. But he decided to channel his inner Cedric Ceballos with his final dunk by using his headband as a blindfold and calling the attempt the blind man's buff. However, his deception was clear to see with holes in the headband.
Look at that hole right there. I can see your hole, big guy.
With this level of cheating, you'd expect Davis to slam the ball in the hoop, but nope. Attempting a windmill dunk, the point guard fell, well, short both in distance and height. Yikes. If he had dunked it normally, he probably would have won. Instead, Desmond Mason took the contest.
Look at this, man. You can't see no holes. Ain't no holes in this. I couldn't see.
Number 18, Sergio Busquets. Undoubtedly, Sergio Busquets will go down as one of the best midfielders for Spain and Barcelona. However, there's also another side to him that has dampened his stellar reputation. In 2010, Barcelona faced Inter Milan in the second leg semifinal of the UEFA Champions League. After losing the first game 3-1, Busquets decided to give his side an advantage by any means necessary. In the 28th minute, while competing with Milan's Thiago Motta for the ball, the Brazilian lightly touched the Spaniard's face and Busquets went down dramatically. Then the Barça icon peeked through his hands to check his performance was being bought. It was. Motta was sent off. However, Barcelona was still knocked out of the competition that Milan went on to win. Number 17, Maximum Security. The 2019 Kentucky Derby, the 145th edition, should have been a celebration of horse racing. Instead, it was doused in controversy. The horse Maximum Security and jockey Luis Saez dominated the race and crossed first.
Maximum Security wins the Kentucky Derby!
However, there were immediate objections. At the final turn, Maximum Security went across the lane and blocked the paths of multiple horses, nearly resulting in a pileup that could have caused major injuries. The winner of the race was disqualified to 17th, and the iconic trophy was handed to Country House, who was unaffected by the blocking. Saez claimed his horse was startled by the crowd noise and veered outwards. Regardless, the jockey was suspended for not controlling his mount.
They disqualified him. They did. So for the first time in the history of the Kentucky Derby, the horse that crossed the line first has been disqualified. After the objection, Country House wins the Kentucky Derby.
Number 16, Sal Alosi. Sports coaches are often seen as being competitive yet fair. However, in 2010, the actions of the head strength and conditioning coach at the New York Jets, Sal Alosi, proved to break that mold and then some. As the Jets took on the Miami Dolphins, Alosi spotted Nolan Carroll running down the sideline. Seemingly forgetting about all the TV cameras in the stadium, the coach used his knee to trip Carroll.
Boy, it looked like he got tripped by one of the members of the Jets staff.
It was then discovered that Alosi told inactive players to form a wall on the sidelines to block the opposition's plays. As a result, the Jets suspended the coach indefinitely, and he was fined $25,000. The NFL also fined the Jets $100,000. Not long after, Alosi resigned from his position.
Situation where I just wasn't thinking.
Number 15, Max Scherzer. It's strange how often baseball stars try to break the rules with something sticky. And in 2023, it was the time for New York Mets pitcher Max Scherzer. Facing the Los Angeles Dodgers, the umpires conducted a routine inspection of Scherzer and found his hand coated in something. After being told to wash his hands and change gloves multiple times, eventually the umpires ejected Scherzer from the game.
While we were in commercial, the umpires did another check of Max Scherzer, and after a heated discussion, Scherzer has been ejected from the game, presumably for having a sticky substance on his hand.
While the pitcher argued it was rosin, a substance allowed in the MLB, the officials didn't buy it. As a result, Scherzer was suspended for 10 games and fined $10,000 initially before it was reduced to $5,000. While he appealed the decision, Scherzer withdrew it shortly after. Number 14, Andre Gołota. Before Mike Tyson was nibbling opponents in a boxing ring, there was Poland's Andre Gołota. Better known as Andrew Gołota, the heavyweight hitter faced off against Samson Pahua in 1995 in Atlantic City, New Jersey. The then undefeated Gołota was in the driving seat for most of the bout. However, after Pahua connected with a heavy strike which dazed the Polish boxer, several more punches battered Gołota. So in his desperation, he did something sneaky. Gołota got close to Pahua and bit down on his neck, earning him a bit of recovery time. On top of this, the referee didn't see it happen, and Gołota went on to win via TKO.
And Andrew Gołota is hitting him in the stomach, and that is all. Downstairs goes Gołota, and down to the canvas goes Samson Pahua.
Number 13, Rosie Ruiz. At the 1980 Boston Marathon, something remarkable happened. Having only started competing in the sport a year prior, Rosie Ruiz shocked the nation by winning the women's division of the iconic endurance race and setting a Boston record. But something fishy was going on when Ruiz appeared in interviews, showing little tiredness and was vague about her experience.
Have you been doing a lot of heavy intervals? Someone else asked me that, and I'm not sure what intervals are.
An investigation was launched that examined video and photographs of the races. Strangely, Ruiz seemingly didn't appear until the end. On top of this, witnesses came forward that Ruiz had used the subway for the New York Marathon the year prior. Both Boston and New York officials stripped Ruiz of her results.
I believe that maybe after this, whether you prove me guilty or not, which I am not, there will be more coverage of women crossing the finish line during 26 miles. It's not fair.
Number 12, LeBron James, David West, and Lance Stevenson. Flopping or diving in sport is one of the worst things you can do. Fans hate the dishonest practice, mostly, unless it gives your side an advantage. In 2013, then playing for the Miami Heat, LeBron James participated in Game 4 of the NBA's Eastern Conference Finals against the Indiana Pacers. However, in the fourth quarter, James and David West of the Pacers flopped on the court during the same play, and the Pacers' Lance Stevenson had already dramatically clashed with Ray Allen in the first quarter. As a result of the mass exaggeration, each player was fined $5,000 by the NBA, while the media referred to the game as a flop fest. Number 11, Brian Carrasco. Football and exaggeration, for better or worse, is a match made in heaven. It happens a lot, far more than most fans like to admit. But one of the most outrageous took place in 2011 with the under-20s team of Chile and Ecuador facing off in the South American Youth Championship. Brian Carrasco did something the referee missed, but the commentators spotted and laughed loudly at the audacity.
¿Qué es lo que hace Carrasco? Por favor, Carrasco. Por favor, Carrasco. Pocas veces visto en el fútbol.
In the 76th minute, the Chilean midfielder grabbed the arm of Ecuador's Edson Montaño and smacked himself in the head with it before falling on the floor. It was bonkers, yet it worked. Carrasco got a free kick for his side. However, Chile ended up losing 1-0, so it wasn't a perfect plan. Number 10, Alex Rodriguez. It's not every bit of cheating that contributes to the riot police being deployed to restore order with the fans, but that was what happened in 2004 when the New York Yankees took on the Boston Red Sox in Game 6 of the American League Championship Series. Alex Rodriguez didn't get a great connection on a pitch, hitting the ball along the first baseline.
Off the end of the bat. Arroyo. The ball gets loose. It's down the right field line. Jeter coming all the way around. It's a one-run game.
As Boston's Bronson Arroyo collected the ball and tried to tap A-Rod out, Rodriguez slapped his hand away, causing the ball to fall to the ground. A startled Boston watched on as the umpires called Rodriguez safe, but after a lot of complaints, the officials had a meeting. In the end, Rodriguez was deemed to have interfered and was called out.
And they're going to call him out. He's out.
Number 9, Jacob Runyon and Chase Kaminsky. With a whopping collected prize of $28,760, fishing professionals Jacob Runyon and Chase Kaminsky were desperate to get their mitts on the oversized check in 2022. So much so that they got creative with the weight of their catch. After the aptly named director of the Lake Erie Walleye Trail Tournament, Jason Fisher became suspicious of the weights of the smaller-sized fish. He cut up the catch. He found they had been stuffed with lead balls, fish fillets, and other items.
From then on, it's a mob-calling foul in a way only true fishermen can.
On top of being disqualified, the duo were arrested.
Kaminsky and Runyon are also at risk of losing the chance to enjoy fishing, even just as a pastime.
Misdemeanor of the 4th degree by operational law. Their fishing license would automatically be surrendered.
In 2023, Runyon and Kaminsky agreed to a deal to plead guilty to cheating and unlawful ownership of an animal. They received 10 days in jail, 6 months of probation, and fined $2,500 each. Number 8, J.R. Smith. As far as cheating goes, J.R. Smith's shenanigans are perhaps the most petty yet hilarious in sporting history. In 2014, the NBA legend found himself in the crosshairs of the league's authority. While playing for the New York Knicks, he was seen on TV untying the shoelaces of Shawn Marion and Greg Monroe in separate games. While the NBA let the first one go and warned him, the second incident saw the league take action against Smith. In the end, he was fined $50,000 for his dastardly antics. But after the fine, Smith retired from his lacy actions. He confirmed he would have continued had the NBA not come down hard on him.
I wouldn't do it every game, but I would do it like with guys I know, guys I messed around with or whatever.
Number 7, Mark Schlereth. There's probably never been an instance of an athlete being so defiant about their rule breaking. Legendary NFL guard Mark Schlereth proudly spoke later about his cheating, describing it as being creative. In 1998, Schlereth's Denver Broncos took on the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC playoffs. However, the Chiefs struggled to hold on to some of the players, including Schlereth. After they spoke to the ref, Schlereth was ordered off the pitch to have the slimy substance he was coated in removed.
All right, Mark Schlereth was just sent off by Jerry Markwright to be wiped off. He had some type of a sticky substance on him. Now he's checking back into the game. They're checking him out, and the referee will now allow him to stay. But they're wiping some of the substance off a number of the Denver Broncos.
As it turned out, it was Vaseline. While the Broncos went on to win the game, the slippery players involved, Brian Habib, Gary Zimmerman, and Schlereth, were fined $5,000 each by the NFL. Number 6, Clint Boyer. The NASCAR and stock car racer Clint Boyer has had a decorated career on the track, but he put his legend in jeopardy with some hijinks in 2013. Near the end of the Richmond International Raceway, Boyer suddenly spun out in his vehicle. This caused the final caution of the race. The required pit stop changed the order, giving his Michael Waltrip Racing teammate Martin Truex Jr. an advantage to qualify for the chase for the Sprint Cup.
Did you spin on purpose to help your teammate?
No, I think we had a flat tire or something. I mean, we went from leading the race and got back there, and they were driving off from us. I got down in there, it kept getting tighter and tighter and tighter, and then the 88 got in there, and by the time I got back to the gas, he got into me, and I had so much wheel in it, it just snapped around.
While Boyer denied the allegations, the evidence of code words said over his radio suggests it was intentional.
Right with you, 88, right with you, right with you, right with you.
NASCAR investigated and docked him and the MWR drivers 50 points each and fined the team $300,000. Number 5, George Brett. When people argue about the greatest baseball player, George Brett's name is always mentioned. But on top of his astonishing career, he's also connected to one of the most controversial cheating incidents in the sport. In 1983, Brett's Kansas City Royals faced the New York Yankees. With the Royals trailing, Brett struck a 2-run home run to take the lead.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. That's gone. And now the Royals have the 1-run lead.
However, the Yankees questioned the amount of pine tar smeared over his bat. The umpires investigated and found the substance covered more than the rules allowed. As such, Brett's impressive hit was crossed off and he was called out.
They might be going to call George Brett out. Well, he is. He's out. Yes, sir. Brett is out. Look at this. Brett is out. And he's steaming mad. He is out and having to be forcibly restrained from hitting plate umpire Tim McClellan.
However, after the Royals protested, the homer was reinstated, and the game was replayed 25 days later from Brett's controversial strike, which the Royals won. Number 4, Marilyn and Margaret de Jesus. For everyone who's watched WWE and seen Twin Magic by Nikki and Brie Bella, it's easy to think that this doesn't actually happen in real life.
Wait a minute. Hey! The two fellas! They're twins! They're identical twins! They are twins! That explains a lot!
But it has. At the 1984 Summer Olympics in Los Angeles, California, Marilyn de Jesus was set to represent Puerto Rico in the women's 4x400 meter relay qualifier. However, she'd gotten injured while competing in the long jump, so she asked her identical twin sister Margaret, who was there as a spectator, to pretend to be her on the track. And it worked. The Puerto Rico team ended up qualifying. However, the truth was soon discovered. When the nation's Olympic head discovered the ruse, he pulled the racers from the final and banned the de Jesus sisters. Number 3, Morhad Amdouni. It's one thing to cheat to give yourself an advantage, but another to negatively affect other competitors to get ahead. And that's what France's Morhad Amdouni did at the 2020 Summer Olympics. While competing in the men's marathon, Amdouni did something sneaky and petty at the 28-kilometer mark. When the runners approached the water table, he leaned over and knocked over a row of bottles before grabbing the final one, essentially denying athletes behind him for cleanly getting hydrated. Amdouni claimed that being fatigued and the bottles being slippery after resting in ice caused him to accidentally topple them. But that doesn't explain the coincidence of Amdouni easily taking the last drink. Suspicious. Number 2, Romano Fenati. Some cheaters go way too far, and motorcycle racer Romano Fenati is one such person. In 2018, he competed at the San Marino and Rimini Riviera Motorcycle Grand Prix for Moto2. While competing with fellow Italian racer Stefano Mansi at around 120 miles per hour, Fenati reached over and pulled the brake on Mansi's bike. This idiotic move would have resulted in serious injury had Mansi fallen. Immediately, the black flag went up for Fenati, disqualifying him from the race. He was later banned for 2 races and then had his motorcycle racing license revoked for the rest of the season. Then, Fenati's team, Marinelli Snipers, fired him for his reckless actions. However, he returned the next season in Moto3. Number 1, Tom Brady. While his work on the gridiron has gone down in NFL lore, Tom Brady's reputation has taken a couple of knocks, with 2015 perhaps being the most significant. During halftime in the AFC match between the New England Patriots and the Indianapolis Colts, NFL officials checked the balls that Brady had used and discovered several were underinflated, making it easier for the quarterback to handle.
This is the play that led to the discovery of what is being dubbed Deflategate. This second quarter play has led to many questioning the integrity of the AFC champs.
The Patriots and Brady heavily denied the allegations that they purposely let the air out, and the Deflategate scandal lasted nearly 2 years.
Let's remember this fact. They brought in properly inflated footballs in the second half, and the Patriots were more dominant in that half than they were in the first half.
The Patriots were fined $1 million and docked 2 draft picks, while Brady was suspended for 4 games. After appealing, winning the appeal, then having that overturned, he served the ban in 2016.
But now some saying this punishment is sending a very clear message to the rest of the league.
What's the best piece of good sportsmanship you've ever seen on live TV?
Cheating can, of course, have real negative consequences. As a matter of fact, some cheating scandals have straight up ruined people's lives.
Williams seems to exhort the team to deliberately injure 49ers players.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're examining our picks for the 10 times sports cheating destroyed people's lives.
I feel like somebody who's been given a tremendous opportunity to impart a message, some profound observation that will save the world.
For this list, we'll be looking at iconic athletes and officials who lied and manipulated their sports to gain an unfair advantage, causing massive damage in their and others' lives. Which sports person shocked you the most when it came out they were cheating? Tom Simpson, 1967.
You didn't want to think
that someone had taken a mate away, and something like the Tour de France, in all its innocence, could take the life of a person away.
The Tour de France is one of the biggest competitions around for cyclists. Each competitor wants to do their best and can go to extremes. In 1967, suffering from illness, British biker Tom Simpson was behind in the race. With the hot temperature of 54 degrees Celsius, Simpson was climbing the grueling Mont Ventoux. Having fallen off his bike, Simpson ignored the advice from his team and continued to cycle. Shortly after, he passed out, requiring CPR. After getting airlifted to a hospital, the 29-year-old Simpson was declared deceased.
Simpson collapsed for the first time, just short of the summit.
Officially, the cause was attributed to heart failure from exhaustion. However, after discovering amphetamines in Simpson's possessions, further tests found the substance and alcohol within his system.
He pushed his physical boundaries by doping. His death ushered in a change in the attitude towards doping at the time, and indeed in the fight to ban it.
Marion Jones, 2007. After the 2000 Summer Olympics, American track and field athlete Marion Jones was one of the best in the world after picking up 3 gold and 2 bronze medals. But once the Balco scandal broke, Jones was linked to using banned substances as her former partners were found to have been using.
I have never, ever failed a drug test.
After years of denying it, in 2007, she admitted she used steroids to win her medal collection in 2000.
I have let my country down, and I have let myself down.
Facing a court case for making false statements to federal agents during the investigation, Jones pled guilty. She was sentenced to 6 months in prison in 2008.
You've gone from $80,000 a race.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is per inch, but it's a lot, right? And then suddenly you're in this tiny cell. You're a felon.
On top of this, the legal issues had left Jones broke, requiring her to sell numerous properties. She also handed back her 5 Olympic medals. Pakistan cricket spot fixing scandal, 2010. After rumors of corruption within the Pakistan cricket team began to come out, the now defunct newspaper The News of the World went undercover to meet with sports agent Mazhar Majid. In exchange for £150,000, Majid would arrange for specific spots to happen during the 4th test between England and Pakistan.
So the first ball of the 3rd over of the innings, yeah?
3 Pakistani players, Salman Butt, Mohammad Asif, and Mohammad Amir, were mentioned in the report. After an investigation by the International Cricket Council, each was banned from playing professionally for years. Then a criminal investigation happened for defrauding bookmakers. In 2011, Majid received a sentence of 2 years and 8 months, but got 2 years and 6 months. Asif got 1 year, and Amir got 6 months. Donald Crowhurst, 1969. In 1968, the Sunday Times Golden Globe race was set to begin. This event was a non-stop sailing competition around the world with several prizes, including £5,000 for the fastest time. Donald Crowhurst, whose business was struggling, saw this as an opportunity to turn things around.
He remortgaged his house to pay for a new boat, but it still wasn't enough. So he managed to persuade Stanley Best, a wealthy caravan dealer, to be his sponsor.
As he entered the race, it seemed like Crowhurst was somehow going toe-to-toe with the professionals. In reality, he was lying about his location and even broke the rules to fix his boat on land.
Crowhurst was now heading into that ocean in a leaking boat he had to bail by hand. And confirmation of just how dangerous those seas could be came later that November.
As competitors dropped out, Crowhurst was set to take second place and perhaps the money. But with the pressure of his deception likely to be exposed, his mental health deteriorated.
He did give this warning that he thought he might have to go into radio silence. But the psychological isolation was that much more complete. He could hear messages coming in, and yet he had imposed a situation upon himself of non-communication, of being, as it were, speechless.
In July 1969, his boat was found with no sign of Crowhurst. Bountygate, 2012.
We hit Smith right there. Remember me. I got the first one.
It's normal for teams to offer financial bonuses for players' performances as an incentive, but issuing bounties to purposely injure opposition players isn't. In 2012, this was the case for the NFL's New Orleans Saints. From 2009 to 2011, up to 27 players were encouraged to deliberately hurt key opponents in exchange for some cash. This malicious scheme involved numerous parties, including team's then defensive coordinator Greg Williams and former head coach Sean Payton. In response, the NFL came down hard on the Saints. Not only were they fined $500,000, but Payton was suspended for the entire 2012 season, and others were also handed bans.
You can't talk to anybody in the league. You can't talk to any coach. You can't talk to any player. It was unprecedented.
Baylor University basketball scandal, 2003. In 2003, Baylor University was rocked when basketball player Patrick Dennehy was killed by his teammate Carlton Dotson. This event sparked the National Collegiate Athletic Association to investigate the university. They found that Baylor had reached the limit of scholarships, so head coach Dave Bliss had been paying the tuition for Dennehy and Corey Herring. To start with, Bliss told the NCAA that Dennehy was paying his tuition by being a dealer. The group then found that Bliss disobeyed several NCAA regulations and even allowed his players to engage in substance abuse. With Baylor's basketball program in tatters, Bliss resigned and received a 10-year show cause penalty, which essentially meant the NCAA would monitor him should another affiliate school hire him. Lance Armstrong, 2012. From inspiring many to take up cycling to creating a successful nonprofit in what's now known as the Livestrong Foundation, everything seemed great for Lance Armstrong. But then allegations about his cheating began to trickle out. In 2012, the United States Anti-Doping Agency charged Armstrong with doping and trafficking substances. Along with his achievements being taken away since 1998 and getting a lifetime ban from cycling, Armstrong's name was mud in sport.
UCI will ban Lance Armstrong from cycling, and UCI will strip him of his 7 Tour de France titles. Lance Armstrong has no place in cycling.
In 2013, he admitted to the doping accusations.
Yes or no? Did you ever take banned substances to enhance your cycling performance?
Yes.
Since then, Armstrong has had to pay numerous court settlements for his deception, costing him millions of dollars. In interviews, he admitted that if he hadn't invested in Uber in 2009, his family would have been financially ruined.
10, 20, 30, 40, $50 million?
It's one of those. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's saved our family.
Tim Donaghy, 2007.
Obviously, there's always going to be disagreement with cause, but the integrity of the game can't come back.
For 13 years, Tim Donaghy was one of the biggest NBA referees in the game, but that all fell apart in 2007 when the FBI began investigating him. Donaghy was accused of manipulating the point spread in games he officiated as he or his 2 associates from high school placed large bets on the outcome.
If he was throwing the games and it was blatant, the commissioner would have known. His co-workers would have known. The owners would have known. Players would have known. They would have called attention to it then, which was the reason why Tim was saying, well, there were other people involved. And he believes that it went all the way up the chain.
At the same time as the news of the scandal came out, Donaghy's wife filed for divorce. He was also initially fined a total of $530,000 for his match fixing. In 2008, Donaghy was sentenced to 15 months in prison, while his associates James Batista also got 15 months and Thomas Martino got 1 year and a day. The Calciopoli, 2006. In 2006, football's reputation took a massive hit when the Calciopoli scandal erupted in Italy. Club administrators and referee groups had been influencing which officials would be selected in certain Serie A and Serie B games, making the results favorable for them. Juventus were stripped of their last 2 titles and relegated, while AC Milan, Lazio, Regina, and Fiorentina faced various sanctions. Numerous officials and administrators involved received long-term bans from the sport and were sentenced to prison. However, most of the sentences handed out were acquitted or overturned by 2015. Yet even so, many had their standing in the footballing world tarnished forever. One who wasn't acquitted was ref Massimo De Santis. His 1-year suspended sentence remained in place. Luis Resto, 1983. In 1983, the undefeated 21-year-old Billy Collins Jr. took on Luis Resto. After 10 rounds, the judges unanimously gave the match to Resto.
Ladies and gentlemen, the winner by unanimous decision, Luis Resto.
But what was shocking was the damage to Collins' face. When Collins' father and trainer shook Resto's hand, he noticed his glove was thin. It turned out an ounce of padding had been removed by Resto's trainer, and the boxer's wraps were essentially turned into plaster casts. The reason was down to large bets on the bout's outcome.
18 days after what had briefly appeared to be his greatest victory, Luis Resto's boxing career was over. But the consequences of that night in the ring, for Luis and so many others, were just beginning.
The savage injuries sustained by Collins forced him to quit the profession. Less than a year later, he passed away from a car crash. Resto was banned from boxing and later sentenced to prison for 2.5 years.
Okay, get ready to go back in time, because for our last video today, we're going to relive some of the worst sports cheating scandals of each year.
Each one blames the other, so someone is still not telling the truth.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 23 worst cheating scandals of each year.
The Spanish team were I think, laughed at and labelled the most unsporting team in history. I mean, unsporting is the wrong word, it's a euphemism for cheating.
What do you think is the biggest sports controversy of all time? 2000, the Spanish Paralympics team's secret. At the 2000 Summer Paralympics in Sydney, Australia, Spain was on fire. Their basketball team, consisting of athletes with intellectual disabilities, swept the competition and earned gold.
After beating the Russians in the final, they posed for a victorious team shot and were splashed all over the front page of Marca, the biggest paper in Spain.
Team member Carlos Rigoborda knew a startling truth about the team. As it turns out, he was a journalist who was recruited to join without anyone asking about his medical history. While working with the team, Rigoborda found that the majority of his teammates didn't have any intellectual disabilities either.
At the beginning, I thought that it was totally impossible for someone to be capable of carrying out something like this. It just seemed completely incredible, and that was the reason why I got involved and joined the team.
All his claims were swiftly confirmed after he exposed the team's dishonesty. In the aftermath, Spain was stripped of the basketball gold. It would take the International Paralympic Committee 9 years to craft a system that would prevent a scandal like that from happening again. 2001, a Little League lie. During the 2001 Little League World Series, the young Danny Almonte was being celebrated for his skills. He threw the competition's first perfect game since 1979 and helped get his team to third place. However, Almonte's 5'8" stature had some people questioning if he was really in the 12 or under age bracket. While the Little League president and his father insisted that there was no foul play, Sports Illustrated reporters dug deeper. Journalists eventually discovered that Almonte's parents had lied and said their son was 2 years younger than he was. This reveal led to the president of the league and the player's dad being permanently banned from the Little League. On top of that, the winning record for Danny Almonte's team was retroactively erased. 2002, not the face. Imagine you're in a big soccer tournament and you're 2-1 up in the last few moments. Do you play normally until the end, or do you cause the biggest controversy of the tournament? Well, if you chose the latter, then you'd identify with Brazil's Rivaldo. He was receiving a ball from Turkey's Hakan Ünsal when it hit his leg. However, Rivaldo acted as if the ball had rocketed towards his nose. Thanks to his performance, his opponent Ünsal was removed from the game.
What Rivaldo has essentially done is taken a decision he's going to try and get someone sent off in a World Cup and just have no shame, no guilt, presumably. I've never spoken to Rivaldo about it. He might be wrapped with guilt for all I know.
Replays that showed Rivaldo had clearly exaggerated the incident led to the players having to pay a fine to the league. Despite being called out for this public incident, he later celebrated Brazil winning the World Cup that year. 2003, Sosa's corked up bat. MLB batting legend Sammy Sosa faced heavy scrutiny after he stepped up to the plate for the Chicago Cubs in one fateful game. During his first inning, he snapped his bat while hitting. While breaking a bat isn't unusual in the sport, the fact that there was cork in the remains of the equipment was. Since the material can make it easier for a player to earn runs, it was illegal to use during a professional game. This fact got Sosa removed from this game instantly. The legendary player insisted the corked bat had somehow ended up in his hands without his knowledge.
Well, Bob Rosenberg talked with Tim McClellan, and he said when the bat split, there was cork in the bat. That's what he's saying. That's why Sammy Sosa is ejected from the game.
While he had to sit out nearly 10 games for this incident, no other corked bats were found in his possession.
It's been a tough week for me. Once again, I just want to apologize to everybody up there that the mistake that I make.
2004, the Apito Dourado, aka Golden Whistle Scandal. In 2004, Portuguese soccer was rocked when 16 officials and referees were arrested as part of a massive corruption scheme. Known as the Golden Whistle in English, this investigation aimed to determine if a group of people had been secretly influencing who won and lost certain games. One of the biggest suspects in the ordeal was FC Porto's chairman, Jorge Nuno Pinto da Costa. He was accused of offering cash bribes and adult companions to refs in exchange for making sure games ended the way he wanted them to. Former Professional Football League president Valentim Loureiro was also accused of wrongdoing. After years of continuing the investigation that started in 2004, 13 people were convicted of various crimes. 2005, Balco's bad connection to baseball. After an extensive investigation, the infamous Balco scandal came to a head in 2005. The Bay Area Laboratory Cooperative was accused of supplying performance-enhancing substances to various athletes. The sport that was arguably hit hardest by the scandal was baseball. During the investigation, personal trainer Greg Anderson was accused of getting these steroids to star players. Famous athletes like Barry Bonds and Jason Giambi were also pulled into the center of this substance scandal. After the dust cleared, Anderson was found guilty on 2 charges related to the Balco scandal. Meanwhile, fans would go on to question if a few of their heroes had failed to follow the rules.
He was that good, one of those guys you looked at and said, that's a Hall of Famer. Well, a Hall of Fame career perhaps, but the choice that he made to use performance-enhancing drugs, to me, that does not define a Hall of Famer.
2006, an Italian soccer scandal, aka the Calciopoli. In 2006, it was discovered that certain Italian soccer professionals had used shady methods to get ahead. Reports indicated that officials had made sure to get referees in their matches that would be good to them. This scandal exposed some of Italy's biggest groups as being dishonest. The Juventus Football Club, a group who had won 2 first-place spots in that many years, were severely penalized. They were stripped of their wins and lost their league standing. In the end, other teams received a combination of points deductions, fines, and bans from competitions for a season. As for individuals, many incriminating officials and refs were either barred from the sport or chose to resign. 2007, Donaghy makes bad basketball bets. From 1994 to 2007, Tim Donaghy was one of the leading referees in the NBA. During that time, he was in charge of nearly 800 games, but he suddenly resigned when news came that the FBI was investigating him. Soon, Donaghy was arrested. As it turns out, he had been putting bets on the matches he worked on. In particular, he was manipulating the point spread to win sizable sums of cash. Donaghy tried to allege that NBA officials were convincing other referees to make games more exciting by making certain calls. However, no evidence of this was found. The basketball ref pled guilty to the charges and spent over a year in prison for his actions.
His co-workers would have known. The owners would have known. The players would have known. They would have called attention to it then, which was the reason why Tim was saying, well, there were other people involved. And he believes that it went all the way up the chain.
2008, a calculated F1 crash.
You still count that race as a proper race victory for yourself?
Yes, I do.
Even though the team effectively manufactured it?
Well, I think that's interpretation.
Fans were shocked at the 2008 Singapore Grand Prix when Piquet Jr. suddenly spun into the barricade and crashed his car after 13 laps. Thankfully, he walked away without significant injuries. At the same time, Piquet Jr.'s teammate Fernando Alonso moved up from the 15th position and won the race. Many spectators wondered if this dramatic series of events had been a mere coincidence. While Piquet Jr. initially shot down claims of shady tactics, he changed his tune after becoming estranged from his 2018. He revealed that team principal Flavio Briatore and engineer Pat Simmons pushed him to intentionally hit the wall. While both the conspirators were forced to leave F1 for a while, they were later able to return in different positions. 2009, Bloodgate. While facing Leinster during the second half of the 2009 European Rugby Champions Cup, the Harlequins found themselves behind. And after using up their substitutions, a player named Tom Williams had to leave because he was bleeding.
Who punched Tom Williams in the mouth? Tom Williams?
This gave the Harlequins a break because they were allowed to send another player on the field. However, the injury wasn't just a matter of convenient timing. It turned out Williams had used a blood capsule to fake an accident. Additionally, the club doctor even helped create an injury to sell the story. To make matters worse, an investigation revealed this wasn't even the first time the team attempted this. This scandal led to Williams being temporarily suspended and other Harlequin officials receiving short-term bans. 2010, corrupt cricket.
Okay, they've all been organised, okay? So the first ball does the third over.
In 2010, a journalist went undercover to expose a huge cricket scandal. They found that an agent, Mazhar Majid, could predict that certain events would happen in a match between Pakistan and England. When everything played exactly like the agent had anticipated, the investigation went public. Team captain Salman Butt and players Mohammad Asif and Mohammad Amir were all found guilty of taking bribes to perform certain actions during games. Each member of the trio received massive bans from cricket. Additionally, numerous people involved in the gambling syndicate were arrested. Majid, Butt, Asif, and Amir each received prison sentences for their involvement in this gambling scandal. 2011, Robles hands over his victory. After having won gold at the 2008 Summer Olympics in the 110-meter hurdles, Cuba's Dairon Robles was ready to race in the 2011 World Championships in athletics. He and competitor Lu Zhang of China were next to each other for what promised to be an exciting matchup. As the race was coming to a close, the Chinese athlete suddenly struggled to keep his rhythm. Robles seemingly took advantage of this random slip and won.
Makes a mess of it over the last
last hurdle. He can't believe it. Robles was interrupted as well.
However, the replay appeared to show the Cuban deliberately reaching into Liu Zhang's lane to disrupt the race. The footage caused Robles to be disqualified. Although Cuban officials tried to protest the call, the decision stood and the gold went to the U.S.'s Jason Richardson. 2012, biking betrayal.
Yes or no? Did you ever take banned substances to enhance your cycling performance?
Yes.
There was a time when it was extremely common to see people wearing yellow rubber bracelets proclaiming Livestrong to support the cancer organization created by Lance Armstrong. Everyone knew him as an honest athlete that had famously beaten cancer twice and become one of the most successful cyclists ever. But people wanted to throw away their bracelets after 2012. That was the year where the United States Anti-Doping Agency officially charged him for running an elaborate operation that helped teammates secure performance-enhancing substances. Shortly after the news broke, he was stripped of 7 Tour de France titles. He was also banned from competing in the sport for life.
UCI will ban Lance Armstrong from cycling, and UCI will strip him of his 7 Tour de France titles. Lance Armstrong has no place in cycling.
2013, misjudged judges. Olympic judges are meant to be a pillar of honesty and knowledge. However, some were accused of being less than honorable in 2013. Those who are looking to become judges have to take tests. While the International Gymnastics Federation was reviewing the submitted exams, they found that a lot of papers looked the same. Not only did multiple test takers get the same questions right, but the errors were also similar across the board. The Federation examined incidents at testing facilities in Russia, Spain, and Romania, and found concerns across the board. Numerous judges were initially expelled or suspended. However, many got off with just a warning when the evidence failed to prove they cheated. 2014, Pineda's pitching gets tarnished. When cameras in Boston appeared to catch Michael Pineda with the mysterious residue on his hand, he shook off the accusation. But there was no way he could avoid being called out for another questionable incident. After Pineda had a rough start to a game against the Red Sox, he notably improved in the second inning. This is when officials noticed a suspicious substance on his neck. Upon further inspection, umpires confirmed Pineda was using pine tar, a material that is illegal for pitchers to use during games. Since there was no way the pitcher could explain it appearing in such an in-your-face place, he had to leave the field.
And they're throwing him out of the game. It went to his neck, and he said there's something on his neck, so Pineda is being tossed.
Pineda wouldn't be allowed to return for 10 games after this pine tar incident.
This is the past, I don't want to talk about that. So I know I'm making a mistake today, and that's it.
2015, Deflategate. When former Patriots quarterback Tom Brady faced the Indianapolis Colts in the playoffs, his strong performance in the first half was questioned due to the discovery of an underinflated football.
This is the play that led to the discovery of what is being dubbed Deflategate. This second quarter play has led to many questioning the integrity of the AFC champs.
This incident would only be the start of a larger investigation that was launched into whether the Patriots had done this before and if Brady was directly involved. Months of extensive discussions and experts weighing in passed before a final decision was made.
I get the snap, I drop back, I throw the ball. I grip it and I try to throw the ball. That's the extent of the, me touching the football. So I don't sit there and, try to squeeze it and determine that. If that's what the Colts want to do, then that's what they want to do.
But in the end, the NFL found Brady and the Patriots responsible for underinflated balls. While the quarterback had to sit out 4 games, the team was penalized with a loss of draft picks and $1 million fine. 2016, widespread cheating for the Rio Olympics. The news stories about the 2016 Summer Olympics in Rio de Janeiro were nearly overshadowed by a wave of shocking scandals. A Kenyan coach was caught trying to help a competitor avoid a drug test. Additionally, 2 weightlifters and a swimmer from various nations were all caught with illegal substances in their system. But it was Russia that faced the biggest scandal. Officials found evidence that there was a system in place to prevent athletes who took performance-enhancing substances from being identified.
The IAAF banned Russian athletes after an investigation uncovered state-sponsored doping and a cover-up of positive tests.
By the end of the investigation, 111 athletes were banned from the event and 46 medals were stripped from the team over the years. A later report claimed 1,000 Russian athletes may have been involved. 2017, Astros spy signs. For years, the Houston Astros had been accused of illegal sign stealing. In baseball, this means one team is using tech to record an opponent's pitching signal so their hitters know what to expect. The Astros were a team that was strongly linked to sign stealing as they headed into the World Series. After winning the championship, a pitcher confirmed that a camera was indeed used to capture signs during games. Furthermore, the Astros used secret audio cues to convey the information to the pitchers.
Change up. Bang, bang.
That sequence is so upsetting. There's no way that is done without technology.
These shocking reveals led to multiple officials on the team being suspended or fired, and steep fines for the Astros. On top of that, the team's reputation was severely damaged.
I am really sorry about the choices that were made by my team, by the organization, and by me. I have learned from this, and I hope to regain the trust of baseball fans.
2018, sandpaper scandal. In 2018, during the third cricket test match against South Africa, a player named Cameron Bancroft was seen rubbing something onto the ball. Despite trying to conceal it, umpires questioned what was going on. Bancroft insisted it was just material for his sunglasses and the game continued. But it was later discovered that he used sandpaper to alter the flight of the ball when it was bowled.
See, by keeping one side of the ball shiny and smooth and letting the other side rough up, the ball, when bowled in the right way, can move through the air towards the rough side. That's because air flows differently over each side of the ball, making it really difficult for batsmen to play.
An investigation found Bancroft, Captain Steve Smith, and Vice Captain David Warner guilty of ball tampering. While Bancroft was suspended from cricket for 9 months, Smith and Warner were each forced to step back for a full year.
I made a serious error of judgment, and I now understand the consequences.
I am extremely disappointed and regret my actions.
I'll do everything I can to make up for my mistake and the damage it's caused.
2019, golf gaffe.
This was his practice swing, and you can see when he took the club back, he definitely took some sand back behind it. Now you can ground the club there. He not only did it once, he did it twice.
Golfer Patrick Reed has been at the center of a few questionable golf moments, but his biggest issue came during the 2019 Hero World Challenge. While leading the competition, Reed found his ball in a bunker. As he practiced his swing, he did something that landed him in hot water. Reed was spotted brushing sand away from behind the ball with his club so he could get a better swing going. They penalized him with 2 extra strokes for his nefarious behavior, while broadcasters and other pros showed their disapproval. However, Reed claimed he didn't intend to skirt the rules. In the end, Reed came third in the competition. 2020, horrendous horse scandal. Horse trainer Jason Service is best known for his work with the championship-winning horse Maximum Security. But that record didn't look as great when he and 27 other people were arrested for their involvement in a doping conspiracy. After Service had a horse named Maximum Security rapidly rise up the leaderboard, people got suspicious. Although the trainer claimed expert methods were the trick, people weren't buying it. Officials eventually discovered evidence that he gave the cult potentially life-threatening substances. In the wake of these revelations, Service ended up in a lot of legal hot water.
Service was one of the trainers indicted on federal charges for trafficking in illegal drugs that were given to their horses, including Maximum Security, although not specifically in the Kentucky Derby.
Just last week, Maximum Security won a major race in the Middle East.
Maximum Security is the winner of the inaugural Saudi Cup. The horse that will be remembered for a race he lost will now be remembered for a race he won.
Fortunately, Maximum Security was relocated to a different trainer after the news broke. 2021, pitching problems. Throughout 2021, the MLB had a massive crackdown on use of foreign substances for pitchers. This came after tons of complaints and numbers suggested that hitting was down to shocking lows. After suggestions were made that the majority of pitchers may have been using some sort of advantage, the MLB uniformly decided to stop this practice in its tracks.
Major League Baseball adding a new rule and procedure in the middle of the season has upset or annoyed pretty much everyone.
Players were warned that they could be sent out for 10 games if they were caught using something they shouldn't.
Any pitcher caught will now receive a 10-day suspension. They'll still be paid. Teams will also not be allowed to replace those suspended players on the active roster. Repeat offenders will receive progressive discipline, and teams and club employees will be subject to discipline for failure to comply. They'll begin enforcing this on Monday. The league says umpires will now start performing checks on all starting and relieving pitchers throughout the games. Do you have anything sticky on your fingers? Have you sprayed anything? Have you rubbed anything on to get a better grip on that baseball? That is the question, right?
Since this mandate required umpires to check pitchers more frequently, there was increased tension between players and officials. 2 pitchers were also suspended during the year for suspicion they violated the new policy. It's safe to say the pitching world wasn't the same after 2021. 2022, checkmate.
This is a targeted attack, and if you look at my games,
This is not, it has nothing to do with my games.
All coming to a head after Neiman shocked grandmasters everywhere, beating the reigning world champion Magnus Carlsen during an in-person tournament.
Magnus losing with white?
A chess master named Magnus Carlsen brought a lot of eyes to his competition world with a strong accusation. After losing to American grandmaster Hans Niemann, he pulled out of a tournament the following day. On the way out, Carlsen issued a tweet that suggested something shady had occurred. Niemann chose to deny all accusations of wrongdoing in official play while also admitting to cheating in non-consequential matches when he was younger. After another match between the two ended abruptly, Carlsen directly accused his opponent of being a cheater.
He pointed to Niemann's unusual mannerisms during the game he lost to the American.
These statements eventually prompted Chess.com to do an investigation that suggested Niemann may have cheated over 100 times on their website. In the wake of these revelations, several matches he was set to play were canceled.
Well, that's going to do it for this deep dive into all the athletes who cheated in their pursuit of greatness. Thanks for watching. I've been Matt from Watch Mojo, and I'll see you next time.